Don't talk about God. Don't talk about Buddha. Don't talk about monks and spiritual beings or anyone. Talk about the universal law of cause and effect. You do this, you get this. You create this, you do that. And we are our own masters. There's two things that I want to touch upon tonight with all of you. And we won't make it too late because we have to meet people tomorrow at noon. I think you're coming too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. You're welcome to, right? You're welcome to.
I would love to. Pleasure.
Good. So there's two things I want to touch upon to help you guys, if we can cover, because they're quite vast subjects and they take actually days, but I'm going to condense it. One is about the mind and how it reincarnates. The second is about the qualities of a Buddha form and the reason we make Buddha statues and the reason why we offer incense or water, or we create them, or we make them, or we bow to them, pray to them, or we hold them in such reverence. So I thought these two would be very significant because then the Lanta Buddha will have huge significance if you understand. And actually I wanted to explain this to you all up there, but there was a slight obstacle. It was called a typhoon. So could not. Now, there are many types of, how to say, phenomenon out there. Not everything is quantifiable or measurable by Western science. And to think that science can quantify every type of existence or mind or form or beginning and end would be actually limiting ourselves. That means we know everything there is to know, and that's impossible. So therefore, some of us are educated in proper schools, or whatever that might be, that teach us to say that whatever it is, we have to make it scientifically approached. I don't fully agree with that, although I love science. And the reason is because there are more things that science does not know as opposed to knowing. And science can't wipe away thousands of years of Chinese culture, Buddhist culture, spiritual culture. Cannot wipe away. There are many things in Chinese culture, for example, if we spoke about the other day, qi, that cannot be measured, or tested, or touched, or felt, or smelt, or seen by our sensory abilities, eyes, ears, and all that. It doesn't mean they don't exist. So therefore, like that as an example, there are many other things out there that exist that are not easily to be seen immediately. Therefore, there are many forms of existences. There are many dimensions. There are many types of beings. There are many types of modes of existence. There are many ways to take birth. There are many ways to die. There are many planets, universes. There are many other forms of life that Buddha have talked about, mentioned thousands of years ago. All right? What's incredible is even in the Buddhist scriptures, Buddha talked about the atom in reference to one of the teachings. And the atom, in Tibetan, we call it tu. Tu is a small, very tiny, microscopic type of being that is always changing and moving, and it combines a lot of those into one to form something more massive and solid and touchable. So even in the Buddhist scriptures, they talk about atoms thousands of years ago, which was not discovered till recently in Western science. My point is not a comparative study of who's better or worse. My point here is, don't look at spiritual practice in the spiritual realm, in the spiritual development according to scientific type of benchmarks, because it always does not work. Now, the Chinese people have been very practical, powerful, rich in so many facets of existence and life, and we can't wipe those out. And part of the Chinese people's psyche, existence, culture, background, living, and what made them Chinese is Buddhism. for thousands of years. And Buddhism entered China before Tibet, before Japan, before Southeast Asia. I mean, China already embraced it. And when China embraced Buddhism, it wasn't just with respect to peasant stock. It isn't just the peasants who are not educated, so a bunch of bald men with big robes came and said, oh, you have to pray and do this and do that. It was among the elite. It was among the scholars. It was among the royal courts. It was among the emperors, the concubines, the empresses. It was among the people who are knowledgeable and very learned that they examined Buddhism, when they accepted it and they practiced it and it became part of Chinese culture. So for us to, understand Buddhism, maybe even practice Buddhism, it's a part of our culture. So how does that apply to other people in the world? Well, we can share cultures. The whole world enjoys Chinese food. Why not Dharma? Why not Buddhism? Why not? So my point is that we shouldn't look at Buddhism as separate. Since we're in Hong Kong, since we're among Chinese people here, we shouldn't look at Buddhism as separate from who we are in our identity. It's part of our identity. In fact, when I went to the Lantau Island today and saw the magnificent Buddha, I was very proud. I was very proud because on a spiritual level, it was awesome to me to be in the presence of such a large holy Buddha image. But on a cultural level, wow, this is China. This is the East. Well, in the East, the gateway to the East is Hong Kong. You have the beautiful Lantau Island sitting there, entering into the East. And I thought it's very significant. And I also thought it was very beautiful that Hong Kong, being such a metropolitan, powerful, advanced, modern, can have this powerful spiritual iconography just in the middle of everything, drawing millions, millions of people there. And I felt quite proud that Chinese did not forget their culture, Chinese did not forget their background, where they come from, and their incredible, rich heritage. I mean, rich is an understatement. Really, it's an understatement, because there's nowhere in the world that no one's not heard of China or its influences, and it's growing. So I identify with China, although I'm not Chinese, because I am Asian, and I've been called Chinese my whole life in America. So I identify with it. And why am I saying that? It's because I felt a lot of emotions today going to Lantau Island. I felt quite a lot of them. They're all positive, all positive. One was very proud to see that the people here are proud of their culture, their Buddhist culture. And that colonialism and the colonial past didn't brainwash them into thinking that their culture, their religion, their people, their philosophy, their writing, their music, their food, their identity is inferior. Because a lot of colonialists tended to do that, to make the colonized countries feel inferior to them. Religion, culture, food, clothes, architecture, whatever it was, we're the colonizers, we are better. And you guys are the colonized, so you are inferior, you follow us. And a lot of people, there are some remnants, that pockets here and there where people feel that, oh, they speak with an English accent, they're better or whatever. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. So what I believe is that we are who we are. We are all equal. And we have the same potential, we have the same capability if we're given the same opportunities. And coming to Hong Kong and seeing the Lantau Buddha, I felt very proud. I felt very proud that a nation, a culture, China, would identify with their past, symbolized by this great Buddha. And when China identifies its past, symbolized by this great Buddha, it's very powerful because it empowers every nation to go back into their heritage, their culture, their background, who they are, and to be proud. And that's the message, to be proud. And I like that very much. On the spiritual side, I was in awe because I know that inside this Buddha statue in Lantau, there's a lot of relics. Relics are hair, nail, bone, clothes, objects that a very sacred, holy person, saint, meditator, master, monk, had used in the past. So if we have a bone or a hair or a nail of this great master in the past, and we keep it, we would enshrine it inside, for example, a statue. When you shrine it inside the statue, the benefits are twofold: the statue and the holy object. So therefore, that's what a relic is. A relic is a piece of a holy being. It could be, for example, a rosary that they had used. So maybe you had one bead, that would be very appropriate to put inside a holy statue. So this statue has many relics from around the world, from many great masters, even the relics of the Buddha himself. So when we go there and we make prayers and we circumambulate, pay homage, offer incense, it's very, very worth our while. Very much so. And I'll explain why in a little while. Now, everything in the world operates on a continuity basis, continuous basis. There must be a moment prior in order to be a current moment. And then there must be a current moment to shift into a future moment. And these moments make up the hours, the days, the weeks, the months, the years, etc., decades, etc., millennium. So, but they're based on the moments are based on instantaneous. Kechik, in Tibetan we say kechik means just like that, the time flows. So it's not like I look at you and then you're here. You were here yesterday to be here today, you'll be here today to be there tomorrow. Without that continuity, you would not exist. The lamp would not exist. The table wouldn't exist. Maybe the table is made of bamboo, I'm told. So it's made of bamboo. Prior to this, it had to be bamboo. Prior to that, it has to be saplings. Prior to that, it has to be a seed or whatever. But you see, it's continuous. It just didn't appear as a bamboo. You didn't just appear as you. Now, having said that, all phenomena, would we agree, come from a continuous basis? That nothing just suddenly appears. Nothing suddenly just exists. It exists from a prior moment, and it will keep existing to the next moment. And even when it dies, it doesn't actually die. There's a next moment and next moment. So therefore, if we look at ourselves very carefully, we put out everything that we've learned, we put it aside, and we have an open mind, and we think carefully, and we look at ourselves, and we do this meditation. It's to look for ourselves. It's in conjunction with the breath. We look for ourselves. How do we look for ourselves? Who are we? We call ourselves by our various names. Sean, Run, Jay, Race. We call ourselves by the various names. But if we look at ourselves, who is Run? Where is Run? Where does Jace exist? Race exist in her body? Where does Sean exist in your body? So, are you in your finger? No, because you cut that off, you still live. Are you in your feet, in your knees, in your arms, your legs, your chest? Are you even in your head? So, if you ask yourself that question, it's philosophical, also it's metaphysical, and at the same time, it's very, very introspective. Because it goes to something higher, it doesn't stop there. Where are you? Where are you, Run? It's not a trick question, it's an introspective question.
I'm wiring in my mind, in my brain, the organ that contains this wiring, that are neurosynapses that sort of are connected.
Okay, so you feel that you are your organ, the brain. So the I, it, the existent you, the Run that you feel exists, the Run that likes and doesn't like, thinks and doesn't think, prefers this, doesn't prefer this, is in your brain, in the organ. And all the electrical waves that go through is you. So, we don't need anything else. It is just your brain. I'm not talking about your physicality or your form. I'm talking about you.
Well, my existence is a dialectical relationship with reality, so I need to have others in order for me to exist.
That's true, but that's not you. I'm not asking you in your relations to others of existence. I'm asking who are you?
I don't think I can exist in vacuum.
No, I didn't ask you if you exist in vacuum. I asked you where do you exist?
Okay.
Is it solely your brain?
The locus.
So if I take your brain out and I put it into another body, is that the new Run?
Biologically, yes.
So, you are just your brain. You're nothing else. Okay, that's all right. We'll get clearer with that. It's not a trick question. It's not to trap you. Don't worry.
Sorry. Overthink.
No, you think. You think because I'll give you the answer in a short while.
Sure.
Where are you, Sean?
In limbo.
So you're not your brain.
No.
If you are in limbo, do you have desires? Do you have desires?
Yes.
Where do your desires arise from? If your desires arise from limbo, your desires must be in limbo or they don't exist. Because limbo is not here or there. So where do your desires arise from? Who is Sean? Is it your brain? Is it your body? Is it your chest? Is it your arms? Is it your legs? And if you put it all together and say, that's Sean, which part? What is Sean? Because I can cut off your legs and arms and you can still live, right? You're still Sean. If I say Sean, you say yes. So it's not your legs and arms. If it's not your legs and arms, how could it be your torso? Or your head? Or your ear? Or your nose? This Sean that you have been living with, for lack of a better word, that says, I need to make money, I need to pay my bills, I need to get a girlfriend, I need to maybe have a family, I need to cut my hair, I need to eat, I need to sleep, I'm sick, I'm not well, I'm happy, I like this, I don't like this, this is bitter, this is sour, I prefer sour, I don't prefer bitter, I like sweet, I don't like salty, I like salty. Who is this Sean? Where does this Sean exist? This Sean that has all the preferences, likes and dislikes. Where is this Sean? Interesting, isn't it?
Yes.
And when we don't even know where this Sean is, yet we have so much identity with it. I like this. I don't like this. I am not. I am Chinese. I am Japanese. I am. I am cold. I am hot. I am nice. I am jealous. I am self-indulgent. I am not spiritual. I am spiritual. I like you. I don't like you. All these statements that we always make throughout all of our lives is not what I'm judging or saying wrong or right. What I'm saying is, where does that come from? Where is Sean?
Right now that comes from what I think people see in me.
No. That couldn't be logical because you have the preferences, not people.
No, it's my reaction to.
Before they even react, you have to have a statement or a like or a preference for them to react to it, right? Prior to the reaction, where does the preferences arise from? So in the deeper meditations on Buddhism, the emptiness meditations do not mention you don't exist. It talks about your mode of existence and how it exists. So hence, if you are not sure where Sean is, and Run says it's his brain, if you say it's that, then how can Run's brain be influenced by anything on the outside at all? Because you are you. That's your existence. You cannot be influenced. Example, if I have a rock, that's a rock. If I put it in the water, it's still a rock. If I put it in the mud, it's a rock. If I throw it in the sky, it's a rock. If I bring it to the moon, it's still a rock. So a rock is a rock. A rock exists from its side as a rock. But if Run's brain is, let's see, if I have him grow up in Argentina, he speaks Spanish, maybe even looks Spanish, and you'd be huge in their parades there, huge. You'd be top of the float. All right, but if I put you in Japan, you speak Japanese, you'd be Japanese-ish. But if I put you in Hong Kong, you are what you are now. But you say that's you. Then you're going to turn around and say, well, that's impressionable, that's imprintable. Well, if that's imprintable, then where are you? Where is the Run? Now, why do we say that? Because if you truly exist the way you think you exist, then everything around you is false. If you don't truly exist the way you've been thinking you exist, then everything you like and don't like also doesn't exist. It is something fabricated from you. Fabricated, solidified by habit, held on, and then creates your sufferings. So that means everything we like and don't like, and everything we label ourselves, good, bad, insecure, secure, rich, poor, smart, successful, not successful, is not viable. Because where does that come from? In Buddhism, the mind is non-tangible. No smell, no taste, no color, no tangibility. The aggregates, the 5 sensory powers cannot perceive the mind. It can perceive the results of the mind, but it cannot receive the mind. And the mind, perceive, not receive, perceive the mind. And the mind is temporarily associated or connected with this body and this brain, but it is not a part of it. And the mind doesn't need the brain, doesn't need the body to exist, to function, to cognize, to perceive, to compute. This body is just something that it uses temporarily. And we can leave this body. People can astral travel. People have psychic abilities. There are people with great psychic abilities. They don't have to be somewhere to use their eyes to see. I'll give you another example. We need our eyes to see, don't we? No, we don't. Our eyes are just something that we are used to using to see. We can see without our eyes. I'll give you an example. When you're dreaming, what do you use to see? Correct. When you are dreaming, what? You see, you taste, you hear, you touch, you fear. And then you wake up and say, oh, is it a dream or is this a dream? And you go, oh, no, that was a dream. What are you seeing with? That is your mind. And that is proof you don't need this body for your mind to exist. When you dream, you can see, hear, taste, touch, feel without this body. And our dreams sometimes are very, very clear. You know, we're being chased by a monster, we're falling down a building, where, you know, we hit the jackpot, all of it's there. We can see. But your eyes are closed. Your ears are shut down. You're in REM, rapid eye movement, which is your deep sleep. Everything is shut down. There can be somebody next to you banging away, and banging away on the pots, bang, bang, on the cymbal, bang, 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 bang. If you're a deep sleeper like some people, you won't even hear it. Yet you hear what you see in your dreams and what you're dreaming. That proves to you you have a mind that is separate from this body. That's a glimpse of its existence. Now let's go a little further. Everybody understand that? So far. Let's go a little further. Since we have a mind that can exist different than our body, then what's our body have to do with everything? What's with this body? What's going on with this body? Why did we spend our whole life trying to satisfy this body? It's called delusions. It's called delusions. Self-delusion, actually. Now, right now, we're sitting here. 6-7 hours ago, we're in the typhoon. We're up walking around. I was breathing hard. We're in Lantau. Now it's all over. Now if we think about it, it's almost as if it never happened. And if we wait 10, 20, 30 years, maybe we completely forget about it as if it never happened at all. But it did happen. For you to be here today, you definitely was around 6-7 hours ago. I saw you. But if I didn't see you, and I say, well, I didn't see you, and therefore you weren't around 6-7 hours ago, would that be logical? Do I need to see you to know you were around? No. But if I see you now, it's obvious you were around. Correct? That's called inferential logic. Inferential logic is very strong in debate in the monasteries and in Buddhist studies. Because for phenomena we cannot see, we use inferential logic to source its existence. For things we can see, we use direct perception logic. Now, for you to exist at this moment, you must have existed a moment prior, and a moment before that, and a moment before that, correct? Okay. This is my favorite question to people, and I always ask them. I don't want you to think, I want you to just tell me, because you were there. It happened to you. Last 3 Thursdays ago, what did you have for lunch? Quick, tell me. Okay, what did you have for lunch? But you definitely had lunch, right?
Yes.
Okay. But if we put you in a controlled environment, put on some incense, some music, light, relaxation, deep breathing, and we recall back one day with, maybe where you went, you check your calendar. Oh, I remember now, I was having lunch here. Would that memory not come back to you? But we gotta relax, don't we? So that memory coming back means you never forgot. So where's that information stored? I'll come back to that. And why is that information retrievable when we are relaxed and we focus? What do we have for lunch today? Quick. Good. You see that information's there. And if I ask you this a year later, you can say, oh, I forgot. But if we trace back, you can. Is it possible you can remember? Yeah. Right. So what does that mean? That memory is somewhere in you, right? But if you cannot directly access it, does it mean it doesn't exist? If you cannot directly access the memory immediately, does it mean that it never happened? Logically, no. Okay? Tonight you can just relax, there's no trick questions. So you don't think, oh my god, this is a lecture class, and the professor's going to call on me. Just relax. There's no right and wrong. Just relax. Now, if you existed now, you existed a minute ago. You existed an hour ago, a year ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Let's pretend you're all 30. Whatever your age, doesn't matter. Let's pretend you're born January 2nd, 30 years ago. For you to exist today, you must have existed January 2nd, 30 years ago, correct? For you to exist January 2nd, the day you were born, were you existing January 1st? Yes?
Yes.
Where were you?
My mom.
Very good. So if you were existing January 1st, 9 months prior, were you existing in order to exist 9 months later? What were you?
Separated by DNA material to...
A sperm and egg.
Right.
So for your sperm and egg to exist prior, for your consciousness to be there, you must have existed, right? So existence of you, right now as you know it, started with the joining of the egg and sperm of your parents. When that egg and sperm joined, you were created, although you were 2 cells. Is that logically correct? Okay, now you become 3 billion, million cells, whatever. How many cells we have in our body? I don't know. In my case, probably trillions. Okay, whatever. 300 billion trillion cells. Now, but I started out as a 2 cell just like you. That's why life is unfair. And these cells aren't going anywhere. That's the problem. But never mind. So is it true that all of you were 2 cells at one time?
Yeah.
Maybe even for a split second, then you became 3, 4, 5, 6, and a million, and 2 million. You know, whatever it is. Is that true or not?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you were 2 cells, was that you, Race?
Yeah.
You existed. Very good. Prior to the two cells, where were you?
Waiting for reincarnation.
Prior to the two cells, where was Run Run and Sean? Because you can't just start to exist with those two cells. Let's fast forward. If you, me, are our two cells, then the source of our two cells, of course, is our precious mother and father. And we must be exactly like them. Have you ever heard of Dolly? Okay. When you clone someone, they're exactly the same. So you must like, think, talk, act, get married, exactly like your parents. Some of us don't want to get married, or our parents have been married 4 times. So why is it we are so different than our parents if we came from them? Is it true that there are extremely intelligent children that come out of parents that are just normal intelligent? And vice versa. Are there cases where children come out mentally handicapped, but their parents are geniuses and doctors?
Yeah.
What happened? So if you are your brain, your blood, your cell, your sinews, your joints, your nerves, your muscle, if that is you, then you must be exactly the same as the source. Are you the same as your parents?
No.
And what kind of clone are you, Dolly? You have to be exactly like that. You can't be so different and so diverse. It's impossible. In fact, many kids do not resemble their parents physically and mentally at all. Saintly parents can produce really massive criminals, serial killers. You understand? And vice versa. There's a point. If your existence and who you are and your identity, your it, your I, we can subjectively say it doesn't come from your parents. Then where did you come from? And you must have existed prior to the joining of the sperm and the egg. If you existed at the time that your sperm and egg joined, and that's you right at that moment, there must be a prior moment, and a moment before that, and a moment, and a year before that, and 10 years, and 100 years, and 200 years before that. Or else that can't lead to that, which leads to this. Now just think for a moment. That's why our likes and dislikes and predilections and directions are very different than our parents. Because we didn't get our mind from our parents. We didn't get our likes and dislikes from our parents. Incidental things such as food, clothes, jewelry can be influenced by culture. Chinese love jade. You go to America, what's jade? What's the big deal? To a Chinese, maybe now it's different, but a diamond is not a big deal. A jade is really wow, especially to the older generation. Okay? That can be cultural. That's just nurture, not so much nature. And Chinese unfortunately loves to eat shark fins. I've never heard that in America. Who want to get a shark, cut its fin, eat it? Why? I've got a life. But that's a cultural imprint. But there are other things about us that are not culturally imprinted at all. Where did those come from? Some of us even have memories of the past, deja vus, that are very clear, very strong. Western psychology would say, oh, it's a neurosis, let's treat it. But that's all they can say because they don't know any better. That's all they can say. If they're going to treat that as a neurosis, every Tibetan Lama in Tibet is going to have to go for therapy. Now, at the moment of your conception, let's say you were conceived at 12 a.m., 11 p.m., you were conceived at 11 p.m. If you were conceived at 11 p.m., you must have existed at 10:59 p.m. 10 p.m., 9 p.m., 8 p.m. the day before. You must have existed January 1st to be conceptualized on January 2nd. Where were you in your prior existence? And it carried over. So your likes, your dislikes are imprinted from your previous lives already. And so you may come into your parents and they say, you must do this, 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 you must study law and be a doctor. I'd rather be an artist. Where did we get this kid from? What a weirdo, you can't make any money being an artist. So that's not good or bad, but that's carried over, you see. When it's carried over, even in this life, no matter what environment we are in, that previous life or lives imprint is very strong. Very, very strong. We just need a trigger point. We need something to trigger. If our previous life was a spiritual person, and we perhaps meditated, practiced, maybe we even offered incense to the Buddha. In this life, when we meet a guru, a teacher, we see a monastery, a thangka, a statue, someone offering incense, it triggers it. It triggers why? What you ate last Tuesday. It triggers what you did 3,000 Tuesdays ago in your previous life.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you don't remember it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Isn't that fabulous, how it's intertwined? Now, if that's the case, why is it we can't remember everything? Because we don't meditate, and we don't calm ourselves, and we don't create space and awareness in our mind. Because memory has no limitations. There is not 3 million things you can remember, and that is the hard disk, no more. Our hard disks have no limit. As Great Master Shantideva says, our memory is no beginning, no end, it's continuous. Meaning there's no limit, there's no limitation. And the minute we understand that and understand what I just told you, it becomes very liberating. Then the limitations we put on ourselves are gone. Now, to make things simple and easy, to bring down a 2,500-year-old deep philosophical talk by the Buddha to a few minutes to today's people, we have two types of minds. We have the gross mind and we have the subtle mind. Gross is just as it's meant, G-R-O-S-S. It's very, very obvious, very clear to see, very easy to identify. Then we have the subtle mind. The subtle mind is, by its label, very difficult to identify, yet exists. The gross mind arises from the subtle mind. The subtle mind is us. Now, the gross mind and subtle mind can exist with form or no form. It can exist with a body and without a body. That means when you die, the subtle mind can exist, and then there's an in-between state, and then you can take rebirth, or go to a different realm, or go to a different place. Because you can take rebirth, the mind must exist before rebirth. Because mind exists before rebirth, mind can exist after rebirth. The gross mind is dependent on our physical body. That means if we take a body of a dog, if we take a body of a human, if we take a body of a blind person, if we take a body of a mute person, or a deaf person, or we take a body of a Chinese person, of a Tibetan person, of a Japanese person, of a Brazilian person, then our minds temporarily are associated with that existence. I am Chinese. I like Chinese food. I am of Chinese descent. And we associate everything with Chinese. And in that life, that imprint was very strong. Even if we take a new life, that Chinese-y thing will still be very strong. Hence, a lot of people in the West go to the East and feel more comfortable. A lot of people in the East go to the West and feel very comfortable. We call that expats, but actually, they're reconnecting back to something from the past. And I want you to understand, planet Earth is only part of existence. It is not the only place. It's not the only limit. Now, our gross mind is directly connected with our gross 5 aggregates. We have the eye consciousness, the eye mind, the eye consciousness, ear consciousness, taste consciousness, smell consciousness, and touch. So we use that as an avenue to give information to the subtle mind. When we die, or when we're dying, if we go through the natural process, then those 5 aggregates will dissolve slowly, one by one by one by one. When those aggregates dissolve, you will see a clear light. Some people say, oh, it's a light at the end of the tunnel. Some people say, oh, I see God. But it's not God or the light at the end of the tunnel. It is your own mind. When our aggregates dissolve, we can't taste anymore, touch, feel, see. Even the person next to us touching our hand, whispering things in our ear, we won't hear, we can't feel anymore because that aggregates is dissolved. That dissolves into our subtle mind. When that subtle mind dissolves, it leaves us. It enters a place called Bardo. B-A-R-D-O. Bardo means exactly what it means, the in-between state. In the Bardo state, we are prepared to take rebirth into another realm, into another place, into another body, into another existence. How we take that is according to the actions that we have been doing. If we have been predominantly lying to people, then we'll take rebirth in a situation, in a place where we will be lied to, where we will be tricked, and our wishes never fulfilled. If in our lifetime we've been killing animals, beings, their suffering becomes our pleasure, then will we take rebirth in such an existence where we will have to feel the same. There is not an almighty creator that creates this. It is called karma. It is the force of our karma. Now, if we have not been lying, if we have been lying, one of the rebirths we can take is our voice will be extremely unpleasant. Our minds will be unstable. We cannot garner the respect of other people when we speak. And our teeth will be crooked, unclean, missing. Our breath will smell, and we have a general unpleasant form. Why? Lying hurts people. So the result of lying will come back that even in that life where we don't lie, we'll have the results of lying. So therefore, when we lie, we will be reborn with a mind that thinks or operates in such a way that doesn't match other people. So they won't like us. Or whatever we say and talk, they don't find pleasure. Or our appearance would be unpleasant. Unpleasant doesn't mean beautiful or ugly. Unpleasant. Upon sight, they don't like. Example, a snake, when you see, don't like. Now, if we practice not lying, then we will be born with a body. We'll be born with a speech that's very pleasant. What we say commands and captures and charismatic to other people. At the same time, we'll have perfect teeth, a good body, and a form that captures other people's attention. For example, from not lying, for aeons upon aeons upon aeons, the Buddha has a body that is tall, that is straight, with long arms, long fingers, long neck, very pleasant to see, very powerful to gaze upon. And to see Buddha's body, one will feel peace instantly. Some people, when you see them, oh, you feel uncomfortable already. But when you see a Buddha's body, no matter who you are, that's why Buddha statues are famous all over the world, even if you don't believe in them. When you put a Buddha in a garden, automatically gives you the feeling of calm and peace and zen in space. Westerners love putting Buddhas all over for that reason. Easterners also. Now, one aeon, I give you a very rough example, very simple example. If you cut a hole in the ground, if you dig a hole in the ground that's 1 mile wide, 1 mile long, 1 mile deep, 1 mile in breadth, and then you take human hair and you cut off by 1 inch and you fill up this hole. Every 100 years, you remove 1 hair. For the time for that to be empty is 1 aeon. 100 of those aeons are 1 great aeon. It takes 3 aeons for someone to practice to become a fully awakened Buddha. The normal path. That means, listen carefully, 3 aeons of not lying, 3 aeons of holding morality, 3 aeons of ethics, 3 aeons of generosity, compassion, 3 aeons of working for the benefit of others, 3 countless aeons of serving others, and then you gain fully enlightenment, just as Shakyamuni did. So when you look at a body of a Buddha, you are looking at 3 aeons of morality, compassion, wisdom, practice, meditative concentration, generosity, selflessness. 3 aeons. In this life, we have people like Nelson Mandela, who, I'm sorry, I made the mistake the other day. I said 19 years. Actually, he was in jail for 27 years. Who gave his body, his life, and his freedom to be in jail for 27 years to free his country from apartheid. Do we not respect him? If he was in jail for 27 days, we'll be like, wow already, right? But 27 years, when you see him, what is that? An icon of freedom, self-sacrifice, and love for his people. Is that not admirable? How about if he was in jail for 3 aeons? Be a god. Godlike. You understand my point? So, when we see Aung San Suu Kyi, whatever is happening now, I don't know, but I'm talking about last year, how many years was she imprisoned? Why did they give her the Nobel? Because she sacrificed. She has a husband, she has children, she didn't see them for 10, 15 years. Why? For her country. For her country. For her countrymen to have a better life, to have a better government, whatever that means. Do we not admire her? When we're in her presence, why do we admire her? Because she gave us money? No. Because she taught us how to be beautiful? No. Because she's wealthy? No. Because they have the mind to work for others, and we respect them. The world still respects them. Now imagine that is in one lifetime they spend 2 or 3 decades for others, and it commands that kind of respect and that kind of iconography. So if we say to them, hey man, why don't you be like Nelson Mandela? We know what that means. But a Buddha, life after life, did not lie, commit offenses, harm, drink, damage others. So when you look at a Buddha's body, you're looking at 3 aeons of perfect meditative practice. Hence, when you light an incense, which what we did today before I met you guys, when we light an incense to the Buddha, you are lighting an incense to honor, praise, and create affinity with 3 aeons of his perfection. So when you bow down to the Buddha, you are bowing down to 3 aeons of perfection. What happens when you make a connection with this perfection? What happens? You create the karmic causes to achieve the same as them. I repeat, you create the karmic causes to achieve what they have achieved. So if you bow down to them, if you offer incense, if you offer milk, water, light, flowers to the perfect Buddha, whatever your offerings represent, your offerings are 3 aeons of their perfection. When you offer to 3 aeons of their perfection, you know what happens? You are creating the causes to achieve what they have achieved. When you recite their mantra, Om Muni Muni, Maha Muni, Shakya Muni e Soha. Om Muni Muni, Maha Muni, Shakya Muni e Soha. Om Muni Muni, Maha Muni, Shakya Muni e Soha. Om Muni Muni, Maha Muni, Shakya Muni e Soha. Om Muni Muni, Maha Muni, Shakya Muni e Soha. Om Muni Muni, Maha Muni, Shakya Muni e Soha. Om Muni Muni, Maha Muni, Shakya Muni e Soha. You are praising the perfect Buddha, Shakyamuni, like what we saw today, and gaining an affinity to their qualities. That means when you worship the Buddha, when you make offerings to the Buddha, when you keep a statue of the Buddha, and you keep the place clean, and you offer drinks and tea and water and prostrations and prayers, you are connecting to your potential. Why? Because the Buddha prior to this was an ordinary person just like us, who became a Buddha. Hence, every person, animal, spirit, ghost, being, sentient, living, cognizing, whether they like or don't like the Buddha, when they see the Buddha, they will be blessed by 3 aeons of his perfection. And seeds of his perfection will be planted in their mind. In that way, the bigger the statue, the more can be blessed. Hence, in the Buddhist tradition, we build Buddha statues as big and as large and as high as possible. Hence, in ancient China, it was very, very virtuous, as in all of the Buddhist world, to sponsor Buddha statues, to create thousands and thousands and thousands of Buddha statues to give away. And you can even put the name of the person dedicated to. For example, if we love our mothers very much, we love our fathers, a brother, an uncle, an aunt, a godparent, a sister, a lover, a husband, a wife, a child, and they're very sick, or they're old, or they have passed away, or soon they will pass. One of the best things we can do for their future life is to create Buddha statues. Why? Everything we give them in this life can only help them in this life, nothing more. Nothing more. So therefore, if we have a Buddha statue and is made correctly, blessed and consecrated, we are holding a being that has 3 aeons of accomplishments. Now, for example, the Buddha not lying, speaking pleasantly to others, speaking only wisdom, using his speech, her speech, only to benefit others, created a few results. One is the Buddha's body is very tall, very long, very pleasant to see. 2, the presence of a Buddha or an image creates peace, calm. Along with that, from not lying, Buddha has 60 qualities of speech. And his tongue is extremely long. Whether you're far or near, the voice will be the same. Whatever language you speak, whatever level of your intellect, when he speaks, it will fit your mentality perfectly. Why? 3 aeons of benefiting others through speech will create that type of speech for others. Do you notice when some people stand up and talk, we all go, oh wow. When some people talk, we go, oh, don't bother. That is the result of lying or not lying. The Buddha's body, he doesn't kill, he doesn't ask others to be killed, and he doesn't implement or instigate killing or rejoice in any way. From not killing, his body, it's extremely pleasant to look upon. Yet his body doesn't create wrong, negative desire in us. When we see a Buddha body, we will not feel sexual attachment, because sexual attachment will result in copulation. Copulation results in desire. Desire results in attachment. Attachment results in suffering because we have to separate one day. A lot of things we do is for copulation. A lot of things we do, but in the end, it doesn't reward us. Now, when we see a perfect Buddha body, doesn't create that kind of desire in our minds. On top of that, the Buddha's eyes is very long. The Buddha's nose is straight. His neck is perfect. His ears is very long from listening to Dharma for many years. Aeons. Now, if we prostrate to a Buddha, the negative actions we have done with our body becomes purified because of the object. If we prostrate to a Buddha, we create the karma that our body will become a Buddha body one day. Solid, powerful, charismatic, and beneficial. If we offer incense to a Buddha, and we celebrate or offer this kind of offering to the Buddha, we'll create the karma that we may be able to hold morality and ethics in the future. If we offer wealth to the Buddha, that's why people put gold leaf. When we offer wealth to the Buddha, we gain back wealth in the future. Not specifically materialistic wealth, wealth that brings happiness. Wealth itself doesn't necessarily bring happiness. If we offer water to the Buddha in our future lives and this life, we will always gain sustenance. We will always gain what we need to survive and not die. My point, when you see a Buddha image, it has that kind of benefit. Especially for people who are very old, for people who are dying, for people who are very sick. If we create Buddha images for them, it benefits them tremendously. Tremendously. Hence, in ancient China, Tibet, Thailand, Japan, Mongolia, Eastern Russia, Laos, all these Eastern countries, you see huge Buddha statues all over, Buddha everywhere, because they understand that. They know the benefits. In Buddhism, one of the best ways to benefit your parents is to become a monk or a nun. Do you know what happens when you do that and dedicate the merits? Your parents, no matter how they live their life, will not go to the 3 lower realms for 7 generations. That's how powerful it is. So people say, but it's not possible for me to do that, and also they wouldn't agree. Of course they wouldn't agree, and sometimes it's not possible. My point, that's why this tradition of Thailand of becoming a monk for 7 days or a month, once a year, every year. Even the king of Thailand does that for his monk. Because you generate the merits to benefit others. Okay, there's a basis for all this. Why do you think the great monks of Hong Kong built a statue so large? A lot of people say, that could have gone for hospitals and all that. Yes, it could have. But there's a deeper healing that happens when you create Buddha images. There's a deeper benefit, there's deeper blessing that happens when you create that. So therefore, it is very important that we have a Buddha image. And some other people might say, hey, you're idolaters. You pray to the statue. Oh yes. But I would like to respectfully counter that by saying we don't pray to a statue. We pray to the representation of what it's telling us. We have the potential to become a Buddha. That's the whole purpose of Buddhism. And the Buddha showed us that it is possible. So when we pray to a Buddha, we are also opening that potential inside of us. So when we prostrate to a Buddha, we create the causes of getting a perfect body. In this life, we create the causes of purifying a body from sickness and extending our lives. If we recite the mantra of a Buddha, we create the causes to have powerful speech. When we recite the mantra of a Buddha, we also create the power to purify the speech that we have done in the past that was harmful. There are many, many benefits. Okay? So therefore, today when we went out to see the Lantau Buddha, it has this kind of benefit. That's why we go on pilgrimages to see these holy places. And we create these kind of images. Now, I've given you a condensed explanation of the mind and of Buddha images. Questions?
If the Buddha image really like bless people, then why is there so many problems in like Tibet and why?
What's the correlation?
No, why are they not blessing the monks who are being bullied out of their country?
What is a blessing? A blessing is to have a country?
No, aren't you supposed to be able to live in peace?
But that's your perception of a blessing. That's not a blessing. A monk, a real monk, has no country, has no identity, has no lineage, has no parents. A real monk wouldn't be bothered what country they live in. A real monk wouldn't be affected by their background, their lineage, their family. That's your perception of a blessing. That's not a blessing. A blessing is when the difficulties come, you can still turn around to something positive. That's a blessing. A blessing is not to live in your country peacefully. Not at all. A blessing is if you live in a non-peaceful country, you're at peace and bring benefit to others. That's a blessing.
But it's really sad to see in the news, monks setting themselves on fire.
But you have to
And,
understand something.
mm,
Just because you're a monk doesn't mean you're practicing. Just because you're a Buddhist doesn't mean you're a good Buddhist. Just because you're a Christian doesn't mean you're a good Christian. Doesn't mean that. Just out of millions of Buddhist monks, if you have a few doing that, it doesn't represent all of them. I certainly wouldn't go and light myself on fire. So you don't look at that and say, why are they not blessed? Maybe they're not practicing correctly. Maybe they are. I can't judge them. But blessings is not that. Blessings is changing and transforming our minds to put up with the difficulties we have created and to create peace and betterment from that. That is a blessing. For example, for some people, when they pray, they will go bankrupt. For some people, when they pray, they will gain money. Why? Because for one, it's a blessing, for one, it's not. For some people, if they get money, they drink, womanize, get sick, break up their family, lose the respect of their children, their wives leave, commit suicide. For some people not to get the money, although they're very unhappy, very sad, they have to work hard, their families stay together. Their children respect them. They learn how to work hard. They learn how to respect others. They learn how to behave because they have to please their bosses. That could be a blessing. A blessing is not the way you perceive it, that it's just this way and nothing else. And Tibet and its monks and having problems has nothing to do with the Buddha blessing. It has everything to do with individual karma. I may be a monk now, but prior to this I have karma also. I've done actions also. My previous life I was something else. So the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lifetimes I have will not be cancelled out by this one single lifetime. Those actions will still return. You understand? But if we persist, definitely the blessings will be there. Definitely. Okay? Makes a little more sense?
Yeah. And then the other question about
Give me a juice.
having our past life. So when our population keep increasing,
That's such an easy one. That's what I told you in the beginning. The earth is just one speck in existence.
oh,
Just a speck. I'll give you an example. During a flood, there's a small lake become very big. Where does the water come from? From the ocean. From the sky. But the water is still the water. So my point is, you don't look at human population as just planet Earth. There are billions of other existences that people can, beings, let's not say people can say rebirth here and increase. And here increasing is not necessarily good. You understand my point?
yeah.
Not necessarily good. So when you look at human population, you're looking at one speck in existence. Samsara consists of 6 realms. Earth is just one speck within samsara. It is not samsara. Earth is not samsara. Earth is one speck. Samsara is a Sanskrit term which identifies or translates as existence, the realm of desire. Okay, questions?
Just like we have different perceptions of what blessing is, there are also different perceptions on what potential
They're kind of
is.
19 and a little bit high, medium. Yeah.
Potential.
Potential.
Yeah, parents have their expectations of what our potentials are, our friends or society, we ourselves, but how do we know our true potential?
What do you mean, how do we know our true potential?
How do we recognize our true potential as a person, what we see ourselves?
Do you want a
as
spiritual answer or a secular answer?
Both.
All right. A secular answer, you know your potentials when you're rich. The end. Isn't that your goal for working, to get money and be rich? Yeah. Nothing more to think about.
And the spiritual.
The spiritual is when whether you get rich or not doesn't matter, but you're happy. And then you reach your potential. What's the purpose of living? To be happy. It depends on if you want to think on a secular level, which is very low, or a spiritual level, which is the ultimate. It's different. Which one will be our truth will depend on our intelligence, and will depend on our being true to ourselves. Because some people don't want to accept the higher truth because they prefer not to know so they can self-indulge. So it's different. Understand that? Questions? You have me all to yourself.
My turn, right?
It's nobody's turn. You have a question, you have a question.
Come on, guys, go.
Definitely, we have existed before, and we will exist again. Because let's fast forward. If prior to the sperm and egg of your conception at 11 p.m. you were existent, 10:59 p.m. you were existent, then if you were to die, let's say at 1 p.m., whatever years later, at 1:01 you would have to exist also, because you continue without this body. It's not just backwards, it's also forward. And if you can exist without this body, what rules and regulations and stipulations and necessities do you need for your journey? And what are you doing now to prepare for your journey? And what makes you think what you're doing now is correct preparation? And what makes you think now is more important than that future, when your future lives will be so much more than your life now? And what makes you think you will be alive for another 50 years, 20 years, 30 years, 80 years? At the max, 80. How much of that 80 years, if you live that long, and with quality and stability and health, have you eaten into it? So if you were to live at 80 and you're 30, you have 50 years left. The 50 years you have left, don't think your body is all fabulous and wonderful and you can still hop and jump and run and do somersaults until you're 80. How much of the good years you have left have you eaten into? Probably around till 50. You can take all the bird nests you want. When age hits, that's it. And so how many of those good years have you eaten into? When you think about that and all the actions you've committed in your life, knowingly, unknowingly, where will that lead you to? Don't talk about God. Don't talk about Buddha. Don't talk about monks and spiritual beings or anyone. talk about the universal law of cause and effect. You do this, you get this. You create this, you do that. And we are our own masters. So if that's the case, how does Buddha fit into all this? Someone who has transcended samsara and has mastered himself, and who can teach us the path. If I went to Lantau, I could tell you perfectly how to take the buses, how to go there, what route, how long to take. If I never went there, you ask me, I have no idea. When you go to a foreign country, especially if it's not advanced, the person you take refuge in is your tour guide. Not to be cheated and used and, be taken away, kidnapped. Similarly, in this life, how long more do you have? If you don't have that much long left, and 80 years is not that long, what are you doing now that has true significance or true impact that's going to benefit you long term? How are you thinking, acting, moving, talking? What is your focus? The minute you get up in the morning, what is the first thing you think, I want to accomplish and do? Is that going to benefit you long term? So when you get implanted with this type of wisdom, you start to think differently. You start to see things differently. Your spectrum opens. Your spectrum doesn't become more narrow. Your responsibilities and your love for your parents and duty, all that does not narrow. In fact, it increases. Why? Because then you go beyond yourself and say, what about my mom? How long does she have left and what has she done with her life? I love her to death, but what has she done with her life? Then it goes to my dad, my cousin, my siblings, my brother, my wife, my sister, my brother, my partner, my friend, my dog. Then what happens to them? And when we start thinking about others and expanding beyond ourselves, it's called compassion. And then when we do actions for them, it's called compassion in action.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Oh, there's so many questions actually.
Take your time.
It's a very precious and powerful system of thought that you've introduced to us and really opened my mind up. So I'm
You
just
look very open.
extremely open.
Yeah, just like a bride the next day.
In fact, yes. Hypothetically, I could control my entire self to completely adopt, understand, comprehend, and I mean, in the way I'm just imagining that in a snap second, I could achieve full potential, full happiness. And that, if I assume hypothetically I can, by control of everything, I mean, it's not possible because, as you have taught us, it takes 3 eons and 5 of what we do, full compassion. I forgot the 4. Honestly.
And you're a lecturer.
And I have not meditated.
Oh, you have. It's just on things that doesn't bring you much benefit. You have. Meditation is not this, meditation is concentrated thought.
Sure.
It could be in a car, but don't do it in a car. Go ahead.
And so this question is great from Sean about full potential. You answered it beautifully, which is if you're happy, that's accomplishment of full
Correct.
potential.
Correct.
And
Happiness based on wisdom and correct action, correct livelihood, correct thought, correct speech. Not happiness with murdering. That's not happiness, that's delusion.
right. So this somehow draw me to the connection of 2, which is the atomic definition in the Buddhist context, and how the gross mind, obviously being the, being its constitution is from 2. And I assume the subtle mind, which is the dichotomy of the 2 minds, that receives information from the 5
It's not a dichotomy, it's the gross mind arises from subtle, so it's not opposite, it is one.
Okay.
Just make that clear.
So when we go through the process of death, we do not cease to exist because existence is sort of tied to, well, the one, but the subtle
Existence is your mind.
mind. The mind.
Correct.
Right.
And your mind is who you are, not connected to your body, but temporarily using. I'll give you another simple example. How good the hotel is how much we can do. We can be the most qualified person, the fastest person, the most technologically advanced. There's no internet, it's as for villagers. So if your hotel is really good, you can do a lot. If your hotel's not very good, you can switch. Your mind is like the occupant of a hotel.
Sure. So just sort of, I wanted to get a little more articulate on that specific point, which is the moment in which the mind chooses in its next life and you mentioned through the act and the actions of our past, whether it was eons ago, or was it today, or the past 60 years of our finite physical self, in which we choose to act, right? And that those, whether it's lies, whether it's adultery, and being awful to your parents, the people around you, having no compassion, being self-indulgent and being myopic in your existence. And I think a lot of people, who are not trained in Buddhism, have a very myopic perspective about life, which is that we focus.
Mandela isn't Buddhist. He isn't very myopic.
Sure, of course.
So what I'm trying to do is I'm not trying to embarrass you. I'm trying to tell you the thought in Buddhism is labeled Buddhism, but that thought is universal and correct. It's in this case it's labeled Buddhism, but Buddhism doesn't own the copyright to kindness.
I think it's fascinating because you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it made it so beautiful because, I was a bit speechless actually.
You were actually eating up
I was.
because there was so much information.
It was a lot. Yeah.
Never mind. You won't see me for a while, so you have a lot of time to think about it.
Sure. It's a lot to read as well. It's just I'm assimilating all this information, and I feel. I want to give you a question. Expressing.
I'm patiently waiting.
Okay, sorry. So the question is, the technical questions are, so I want you to articulate again how did I transition from the process of death through the subtle mind leaving the body, going to another form, through Bardo, and through Bardo, how does that sort of process, can you define a bit more, and then how that goes into the next life, as in.
Oh no, it's not next life, it's next life.
But it's a continuum.
Correct. So it's the next, not life, but life.
Correct. So
The body we're talking about, we're not talking about the mind.
right. The two is obviously.
Oh, I see. Next life meaning that if it's continuous, it's not going to be a next life, it's a life.
Well, I see.
We're talking about the physical constituents ending and the new
the
constituents.
two versus
Okay.
the.
I understand.
Right. So it's a bit difficult for me to grasp my mind around it. It's like.
You will grasp it. You know why? It's the first time you've heard it and you articulate it pretty well. You'll grasp it.
Okay.
I didn't say you'll accept it, I said you'll grasp it.
No, in fact.
No. I'm saying that in a respectful way, telling you I'm not stuffing it down your throat. I'm sharing and you take your time to think about it.
But I want to share with you that respectfully, I actually find it such a beautiful system of thought. I find that any person can sort of benefit from that system of thought.
If you can realize that system of thought,
Sure.
your life will be different. The way you look at others, the way your patience will grow. Your compassion will grow naturally. Your wish to work for others will grow naturally. Your happiness will grow. Your method of benefiting people you love very much will be exponential. It is not a matter of just feeding them and taking care of them and pleasing them on a very superficial level. It will grow exponentially because you will do things for them for their future lives. Just like parents do for us when we're young, we don't know till we grow up.
That's the other question I had actually about parents. Who are they to us then?
Who are they to you? They are the ones that gave you your body so you could practice to become a Buddha.
Okay.
So you owe them your spiritual practice.
The spiritual practice.
The spiritual practice.
So they give us my body.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Now, Shakyamuni lived for 81 years exactly. At the time of 81 years when he finished, he manifested parinirvana or death. He turned 3 wheels of Dharma. They're called yanas. Y-A-N-A-S, yanas. You have the Hinayana, the Mahayana, and the Vajrayana. Hinayana teachings are pervasive in Southeast Asia. Mahayana is pervasive in China, Mongolia, Tibet, Nepal, Japan, Korea. Tantrayana or Vajrayana, the Adamatin path, was available and is available and predominant in Northern Asia, such as North China, Tibet, Mongolia, Nepal, India. Now, in school, in my school in America, when you score very high, they put you in a gifted and talented class. They put me in that. Because when kids were in 6th grade, well, when we were in 6th grade, some of us grasped things very fast. So they put us in classes that taught us 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th grade simultaneously, and we passed. So it's called the talented and gifted class. So those talented and gifted kids, if you put them in an ordinary class, they would just die because they're so bored. And they learn so fast, they know so much, unlike normal kids. Okay? Similarly, among Buddha's hundreds and thousands of disciples, you have the gifted and talented who can speed up the spiritual practice. They can absorb, learn, apply, get results, and then go step 2, step 3, step 4. For those, he taught the Mahayana. Then among the Mahayana path, for those exceptionally gifted, very meritorious, and very hardworking, he taught the Tantrayana path. The Tantrayana path, depending on what path you engage in and how hard you work, can bring you enlightenment within 1, 7, or 16 lifetimes, which is a shortcut.
It's a long time.
It's a short time compared to 3 eons.
Yes.
Now there's a catch. The first, third, fourth, and last Buddhas will teach Tantrayana. The other 996 Buddhas that will appear will never teach Tantrayana because people don't have that predisposition. So Shakyamuni, which is what the age we live in is Shakyamuni, his teachings he himself has predicted will live for 5,000 years. During the 4,500th year to the 5,000th year, it will degenerate and become nothing. He has predicted. Why? The merit and the times that people cannot support it. Now, Buddha Shakyamuni taught the Hinayana paths, the Mahayana paths, and the Vajrayana paths. So within the Vajrayana path, you can bypass Hinayana to achieve enlightenment much quicker. Now, why did he teach those 3 different paths for 3 different levels of people? There are those who take it slow, there are those who like it faster, and there are those who have the incredible merit and intelligence to do things and accomplish things much faster. So he taught the highest path. The next Buddha to come that will appear in our fortunate place will be Maitreya. He will not teach Tantrayana. He will teach only Hinayana teachings. So we are considered extremely fortunate during this aeon because there are 3 yanas, 3 vehicles. Yanas is vehicles. So therefore, Tantrayana is one of the quickest and most powerful paths to enlightenment. But you have to get the foundations and preliminary practices stabilized first. You don't just jump into it. It can take you 15, 20, 16, 17, 30, 40 years to prepare. Some people 2 years, 3 years. How hard you work. That's one. Second, we have a central channel. In Chinese medicine, you call that the qi channels. The central channel has 2 alternate channels, which is the left and the right paths. Then these 3 channels, these 3 channels branch out all over our bodies. When they branch back to our bodies, they can join in 5 places. Those 5 places, Westerners, New Age people call chakras. But they're actually places that the passages where the winds go through converge. So here, 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 and here. Now, when any of those get blocked, we can become very angry. Disillusioned. We can become very violent. We can go off. So through meditation, we can unblock these channels. We can move these channels. In Chinese medicine, you can put needles in certain places to unblock. Chinese don't so much focus on the mind in their healing, they focus on the body, which is fabulous. The Tibetan focusing on those points are clearing the channels of the mind so that the negative mind doesn't arise. Because we believe the negative mind creates the diseases in the body. For example, if you have a lot of anger, it can come in cancer. Okay? Now, when we are dying in a normal death, I'm not talking about an accidental, like you fall off the cliff, bless people, I don't mean in a bad way, or you get hit by a bus, or you really just collapse and hit your head on the stairs and you just instantly die. I'm talking about a normal, non-accidental, sudden death. When that happens, then the winds all converge into these 5 places. When the winds converge to these 5 places, one by one the elements in your body, the primordial elements, earth, air, wind, and fire, will dissolve. When fire element dissolves, you feel cold. So you hear a lot of people who are dying say, oh, give me a blanket, it's so cold. When the wind element dissolves, you will lose your hearing. When the earth element dissolves, you feel a shaking. You start to lose consciousness. You will not be able to hear people around you. When the earth, air, water, when the water element dissolves, you feel extremely thirsty. Your eye will start going off. So what happens is step by step, you lose your feeling, your sight, your hearing, your taste, and your touch. This will happen. When this happens, the winds dissolve into the 5 points. The 5 points, the winds dissolve into the 3 channels. The 3-channel wind, the winds dissolve into the last channel. The last channel starts from here, from the secret organ, up to our crown. Then the mind abides here. If we have been praying to our Buddha, for example, if our Buddha has been Tsongkhapa or whatever your Guru has been assigned to you, at that moment, you'll be conscious. Outwardly, there will be no heartbeat. Outwardly, there will be no pulse. And your body will be not moving. No rigor mortis yet, but you're still there. And when you're there, if you have been meditating, you will be able to hear everyone around you, see everyone around you, and know what's going on without using your eyes, ears, nose, or body. How is that possible? Just like in your dream.
For how long?
Depends on you. Some 49 days, some 7 days, some 1 minute, some with a lot of fear instantly. Depends on you and the control you gain over your body, and your mind. There are some very advanced ladies in Tibet, lady practitioners, who after they die, they can sit firm for 30 days. No decomposition.
And will they feel if they are being cremated?
Of course not. Why would they be in their body? Why would anybody cremate them when they're still inside? That would be murder.
Like, she might be lying down and you don't know.
Oh, no, my ignorant little friend. There are many advanced people around who can see whether she's still there or not. They're not all raised one going, oh, is it there or not? Let's burn her. Oops, too late. No, no. There are many ways to observe. I'm telling you a shortcut how this happens. Don't start going off the sidetrack into something very minor. Of course there are people who can say, oh, they're still inside or they're gone. Of course there are.
Question, but
Yeah.
is dream in a very modern sort of like understanding, obviously chemical.
Modern doesn't make it better.
Of course, excuse
Mm.
me, qualify that. Great, thank you. but the chemicals that allows for the manifestation, what you said, which is dream, which is some sort of still, I mean, in my mind actually still is dependent on my first answering to your semantics and the neural organs. That's the cognitive functions may have died away, but the dream can still exist because in my way of thinking, it's still dependent on the chemistries of the brain. So in some way, I'm experiencing a dream in a lucid way, whether it's a projection of my long memory or short memory, whatever, and then I identify with that image that I'm in. The movie actually, I don't know if Ash watched it, Inception. So
No, I didn't.
okay, so it sort of goes through this sort of.
But that's just a movie.
Sure, but it's
So
sort of
let's
there's a
not
paradigm.
even use that as a reference point. It's
course.
just a silly Hollywood movie to make money, which
No.
you didn't invest in too bad. It made a lot. And then
But if you extract sort of the paradigm out of that movie, which is just one single thing, which is
you can extract the paradigm, but
With
not from a
reference.
movie.
okay, fine.
You know why?
From Freud. Can we do it from
No,
Freud?
it's just a movie.
Okay, so just a very simple description, characteristic of projection identification, that there exists somehow within this chemistry of the brain. So
Okay.
when the person dies, the chemistry sort of slowly dies down.
Not necessarily.
But electromagnetic sort of measurements of our brains sort of cease. So there may be possible for us to.
It could be that, but what happens if it's not?
That's what I'm saying.
No. It could be that,
Mhm.
but what happens if it's not?
What happens if it's not?
Then the Buddha's wrong.
Okay. Sure.
Then the Buddha's wrong, and the thousands and millions of Buddhist monks in the past who have achieved higher levels of realization and clairvoyance are wrong.
Is that inferential logic then?
It's not inferential logic, it's direct perception because you can see these accomplished masters. In our monasteries, which you have not visited and you are ignorant of,
Of course.
in our monasteries, ignorant is a good word, meaning you don't know.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
We have witnessed monks
Mm-hmm.
in the heat die
Mm-hmm.
and stay in meditation for 30 days with no moving,
Mm-hmm.
nothing.
Incredible.
And guess what?
Mm-hmm.
The last monk that exhibited that, which is a few years ago,
Mm-hmm.
they got the permission of the authorities
Mm-hmm.
and the police,
Mm-hmm.
the doctors,
Mm-hmm.
scientists came, and they hooked up everything to this dead body,
Mm-hmm.
and they were amazed why it's not decomposing.
Mm-hmm.
Very famous.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the monk finally decided to leave his body,
Mm-hmm.
he gave this sign, which is common.
Mm-hmm.
A drop of blood will come from here, a
Mm.
drop of blood will come from here, and his body will do this.
Mm-hmm.
Then you make me hit.
Okay. Okay. Sure.
This is scientifically proven.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, at least for me, there's.
Oh no. You know what?
Mm-hmm.
Trust me
Mm-hmm.
that I wouldn't simply just believe it. Trust me.
That's true.
I wouldn't simply believe it. You know what? Then my whole life would have been wasted. No, I'm not saying that as an emotional threat to you. I'm telling you that to myself. I'm telling you all this just on a philosophical basis. As time goes on, I will show you examples. I will relate incidences. I will tell you more and more. Today, I can't give you the hundreds of examples I've seen in 30 years, but I will eventually. I will. Let me just give you the philosophy. Example, if you're going for medical school, I'll say to you, well, we cut here, it's like that. And you say, well, how does that work?
Mm-hmm.
Give me time, and we'll get corpses, we'll cut it up, and we'll try. You're not wrong. It is that.
Okay.
It is that. Our mind does depend on neurology.
Mm.
It does depend on the electrons. It does depend on the chemicals. But the chemicals and neurons and electrons are used by our mind. It is not our mind. I want to stress, it is used by our mind, but it is not our mind.
Another question I have then,
Okay?
connecting the point about intent, about our, the imprints of that. So you mentioned how that's a continuum all the way from the past. Like, we are not necessarily just the DNA combination. That's a two. So,
Okay.
But there's still the imprints, which is very significant.
The imprints are
Right.
what makes you like and not like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It is what makes you like and not like, or prefer,
The
or have
preference.
preferences, right?
Right.
On a ordinary level.
Uh-oh.
But one that's very attained are not controlled by their imprints. They
Uh,
transcend the imprints.
That's not really a part of self, isn't it?
The imprints
Mhm.
are removable, so therefore they're not a permanent part of self, but they're temporarily a part of
So
self.
they're like the long memory, so to speak. So
They're not a long memory.
Mhm.
Imprints are what compels you to do what you do, whether you remember or not. Some can remember, some cannot. It depends on the level of your development. So them operating in your life and influence you doesn't depend on your memory of it. Our memory of something doesn't make it exist or not. That means if we don't remember, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Sure, of course, exactly. Yeah.
Something like that. So if we don't remember our previous lives for the moment, it doesn't mean it doesn't
So,
exist.
but obviously the potential for preferences are somewhat strong. So I think I understand what you're saying is they exist.
Yes.
It's just a matter of
Of triggering them.
triggering them.
Yes.
Right. So they're more like impulses. really.
They're no, not so much impulses, but some can be, but not all. Now, what triggers them is the environment you have been born into.
Okay.
What creates you to be born in an environment is the karmic dispositions that open at the time of death. So the time of death, if you have extreme desire towards money, you can be born in a very wealthy family. With that wealth, you can destroy yourself. Why? It's attachment. At the time of death, you can completely say, where I may course, may I take a rebirth that will be of tremendous benefit to others. So you take rebirth in a country, perhaps very harsh, very difficult. And you grow up in a horrible, nasty life, and you grow up to have strength, dignity, hard work, ethics. For example, Mandela, and you command the respect of the world and change the world.
But you know what's really fascinating is suddenly from the very onset, inception of your conversation about the fact that it's part of Chinese civilization of being Chinese, the cultural significance of it all, and suddenly it seems it's okay to believe in a system of thought like this without.
You know what? I want to tell you something, and I'm going to be very direct.
Sure.
Stop thinking Chinese are stupid.
I don't.
No, I don't mean it in a bitchy way to you. I'm just
Sure.
saying, stop thinking Chinese are stupid.
Mhm.
What do I mean by that?
Mm-hmm.
Chinese are such an advanced race.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So advanced. I've read so much of their literature when I was in the monastery.
Mhm.
All right? Now listen.
Mhm.
They're very pragmatic also.
Mhm.
If it doesn't work, out. So for Chinese people to adopt a system into their culture, it must work. It must mean something. It must have some type of benefit or be out. They're very pragmatic.
Though I'm afraid they're at what point is because of royals, the elite of that time, that Buddhism was considered as some sort of a class differentiation, and that's symbolic. It's like a status symbol, and so
That
right.
I don't know. But I will say this. Buddhism wasn't the only thing that was used as a class symbol. It could be a jade cup. It could be how you walk. There was class symbols to be male and female. 7 steps behind the male, you're female. It doesn't have nothing to do with Buddhism. You see, that has nothing to do with Buddhism. That has to do with Chinese always wanting face.
Fascinating.
Yes, that has nothing to do with Buddhism. Some of the royals borrowed that in order to suppress people. But you know what? People suppress people with, I'm a movie star, so you should worship me. It's not necessarily Buddhism. It is people using different avenues to suppress and create class
Just want
differentiation.
to make a connection there as well.
Yes, there's a connection,
Right.
but you see, it doesn't take away from the fact that the Chinese are highly advanced in their thinking, philosophy, writing, everything. They're highly pragmatic. Were there people in Chinese history that abused Buddhism and hurt the lower classes? Yes. And were there Chinese that used Buddhism to better the classes? Yes. So what's your point?
I think what I'm trying
Buddhism is the victim here.
Sure.
All right?
Sure.
Now, believing in Buddhism is a very strong part of identifying with your past and your culture. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Sure.
I mean, that you just told me you have kind of went, oh yeah.
Yeah, sure, exactly.
And that's one of the reasons why I like to bring Buddhism back to China.
Got it. Connection.
Really, it's one of the reasons. I mean that.
Sure.
Because I'm very proud of China. You know why I'm proud of China? I'll tell you the truth. Because when I was growing up, I was called many racial derogatory names and made to feel that I am inferior because I'm not white. I was called chink every single day in school. They pulled their eyes up at me every single day. And they would make racial slurs about me being yellow. And I grew up in my teenage years feeling that I was inferior because I wasn't white. And when I came to the East, I was overwhelmed.
Mm.
I said, wow,
Mm.
wow.
Mm.
That's why I don't admire people who say, oh, I want to live in New York, it's so much better. Oh, I love London.
Mm.
You're a race trader.
Mm.
Hong Kong's fabulous. No, you know what I mean.
Sure.
I'm not talking about people who live there for reasons that are positive. I'm talking about they feel they're inferior, their culture's inferior, everything's inferior. But if I speak like them, act like them, dress like them, talk like them, I'm better. That's what I'm talking about.
So today's mainland Chinese.
Well, that's why we need to bring our culture back, and one of them is Buddhism.
Mm.
If we can bring that back to them,
Mm.
we'll be doing a great service to this nation.
I have no question.
Do you understand
I
that?
completely understand that.
That's why I'm passionate about it.
Mm.
And that's the way you can give back to this nation
Got
and
it.
create a legacy.
Mm.
Bring China up.
Mm.
Isn't that interesting and fascinating and exciting?
I received, I'm open to receive, receptive to the seeds of thoughts, but I have more questions.
No. But before you get to your questions, let me finish my questions.
course.
Isn't that exciting?
It truly is very
To
exciting.
bring something back.
In the resurgence, renaissance of Chinese language.
Yes. Yes.
I got that.
Are there negativities toward that? There is, but you know what? If we're going to think like that, don't do anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Don't create cars. Don't do anything. Just sit in the forest and do nothing, because everything has repercussions. It's our motivation.
Mm.
It's our motivation. Question.
Thank you for connecting that though. I think a lot there's abstraction going on, so I was thinking like in my
Abstraction going on? Are you Van Gogh?
mind. No, it's actually when you were when we were talking about this, I was actually trying to parallel what you're saying to my system of thought. So I was actually trying to match the two.
So you came in wrong. You should have came in with an open mind and
I
not make
do.
parallels.
I do. I'm creating a whole
Naughty
compartment.
boy.
No, but I compartmentalize a whole new space. For
There
that.
you go. I have a
Yeah.
small little compartment in your
No,
mind.
it's parallel to mine actually. Alright, so I was thinking that again, I'm taking a third party sort of stance thinking about this. But I
Of
was
course
thinking,
not. You don't want to look bad in case you're wrong. Go ahead.
Good point. Alright, so
The truth?
that's the part I think, maybe that's the reason why I'm doing it. But so I was thinking there's a great deal of a parallel and similarity between how I would describe and have the world order and worldview from how I work as a person to how life and death cycle works, and yet I'm able to traverse between the two systems of thought and not have too much of a
Just give me the question.
The
I'm pretty
question-
smart, trust me.
Okay.
Just give me the question.
The question is, can I actually understand Buddhism as just, as I just said, a system of thought, or the vocabulary in terms of the way I understand life, but I know that's different from what I would currently understand the world, which is, when you talked about the sperm and the egg combining and that we exist prior to those combining, I was thinking in the midst of this too, there's this thing called meiosis and meiotic, and recombination and all that. And then I was drawing your reference about, how like, it's a bit complicated.
Just give me the question.
What's the question?
The question is, I still think that Buddhism, okay, everything you just said, it's like 5,000 years of understanding and conceptualizing our lives, and yet, it's a perfect system of thought, and it's perfect in the way it thinks, but I can't. I still want to modernize it. If I can, instead of just saying.
What's your question? For the fifth time. What's your
Okay,
question?
can I just step out of it and say I don't necessarily need to believe in Buddhism, but I completely understand the system of thought, and I can practice it as a way to increase improve myself.
Yes, you can. Yeah.
Well, that's easy. I was afraid or timid of approaching it.
You see, however you think about Buddhism, however you view it, and your acceptance of it or not, has no significance to its truth. You are nobody.
Sure.
Your thought has pervaded nothing. Your ideas have done nothing for mankind.
Mhm.
Your way of living has benefited no one. You are nothing.
Mhm.
There is no way you can ever compare to the Buddha's mind.
Of course.
That's one.
Mhm.
So if you want to take 84,000 teachings of the Buddha and then just say it's a way of life, then you have taken something great and made it into something very materialistic.
So can I respectfully?
No.
Thank you.
I'm not offended or I feel disrespect. No, let me finish.
Sure.
So you just made it into something that is another way for you to please yourself. That's my life, and I don't believe in it, but I like it, and it's a way of life, and it becomes another indulgence. It becomes another method for you to feel good. It completely takes away from its original inception, which is to generate compassion. If you don't wish to worship the Buddhas or do meditations and practices, that's fine. But you have to understand, Buddhism's beginnings and teachings and philosophy and practice is not developed for you to conveniently just make it a way of life and then feel you'll get benefits. You will not get the full benefits from that because that's not the approach. But is it wrong? No. Is it bad karma? No. Will you be punished? No. Will a real Buddhist be offended? No. But if you're going to go inside a BMW and drive with just one foot, not your arm, and you don't learn any of the parts or how to move it or anything, you won't get the full benefits. But can you drive it with just one foot and nothing else and all that? Sure you can. Sure you can. So if you want to drive Buddhism with that myopic kind of narrow thinking that is not receptive to more, because you cannot learn all of Buddhism in one session and then conclude immediately after one session, why even bother going to school and get a degree? On the first lecture you should say to your teacher, oh, I know what to do already. You're not giving yourself time, learning, patience, debate, meditation, concentration, investigation into learning it more. How can one session of 2,000, not 5,000, 2,500 years of rich Buddhist tradition, 84,000 teachings by the Buddha, be concluded in one session as just a way of life? If I was you, I wouldn't conclude either way, but investigate further and take a few years to do so. Because what I'm teaching you took me 30 years, not one session. Now, you have a huge chip on your shoulder about religion. Huge and massive. But that's not religion's fault, that's your fault. Because you've been construed with ideas that religion is negative. Religious teachers are negative. Something about it is negative. You've been construed with that idea, and I respect that. Because someone must experience something negative to have that thought, to put that in your mind. Because not all religious practitioners are so pure. There have been bad ones who, under the guise of Buddhism, do negative things. So therefore that's that, but that is not Buddhism. Example, if I come to Hong Kong and I have one Chinese person abuse me, how can I say China is bad or Chinese people are bad? I can't say that. You know, so what I'm saying to you is, at the moment, you have a huge mental block about religion in general and its true function. And do you know where it arises from? Ignorance. So if I was you and your question to me is, can I take it as a way of life? At the moment, sure you can. Would that be offensive? No. But what I'm trying to say to you is like driving a Beamer with just one foot. Not even your arms, not even learning the console, how to move, how to operate it, and read the user's guide and really get full enjoyment out of it.
Sure.
But just, can I just drive with a foot? Sure. But I just there's 12 lessons, and I gave you half a lesson for how to operate a Beamer. So you concluded very fast. Yes, you're very intelligent. But even intelligence requires more information to digest
You're
and
absolutely right.
conclude. So if I was you, there are some things in me that unfortunately you like. But I need to tell you that's the result of Buddhist practice. So maybe you can fast forward yourself with some results to conclude. Not yet. Be a scientist. Learn more, dissect, learn, ask questions. We'll meet.
But I think it's a very heuristic response for me, actually, just looking at diversity of lots of the practices around the world. And fortunately enough, I have been through some of those countries and saw a very different system of thoughts, so I'm afraid that I'm taking a third level sort of thing, looking down at the plethora of these phenomena and thinking, the diversity of it has to be that from an anthropological standpoint, which unfortunately instilled in me through my studies in sociology and anthropology, that these are all, like, as I mentioned before,
As if
the church terms.
as if the anthropologists are the gods and they're filled with wisdom and they should be worshipped instead of anybody else. As if that's it. As if anthropology over the last 100 years have metamorphosized and changed their thinking because they dig up more and more things, they find out everything they taught was wrong. As if the anthropologists that taught in Yale and Harvard are infallible. Please,
Of course they're
keep your mind open, my dear.
I do.
If you do, you cannot take on their view and be defensive about their view.
You're absolutely right.
In a good way.
Sure.
Because you're totally, that's what they say, that must be it. And I'm immersed in that, and that must be it. You see, then you limited your knowledge.
Those are possible that our minds are.
But you see, leave it that both are possibilities.
Sure.
Don't take on the stance of them against this. Take on the stance of, let's see which one.
But you know what? I'm trying to articulate something, which I'm trying very hard to. And
Just say it, I won't be offended.
So, for example, form, okay, like a circle. Different societies have very, different interpretations, maybe, perhaps. Circle could be in different words and whatnot. So I'm just saying that they're just representation of different, like Buddhism versus Christianity are same things. Be compassionate, be loving, whatnot. But they're all sort of giving a form to what that thing is, and we're just sort of semantically processing it in a different way.
Not exactly.
Not
I don't
exactly?
agree. No,
Okay,
I don't agree.
Sure. So like the
Because you've really summarized it in a very simplistic, childish manner that comes from first grade learning. If you were graduated from this, it would be different.
Sure.
You've concluded very simplistic.
No, I agree with you. I had to.
It's very simplistic.
Because you know where I'm coming from, which as I said, I may be
I know.
supposed to be intelligent, but I don't have the information and the knowledge,
That's right. That's
so there's no concept
So,
to it.
but see, when you say that,
Mm-hmm.
it's very final.
Okay, sure.
The way you say it is very final, which sends a message to yourself that that's it.
Not at all.
Good.
Not at all.
Good.
In fact,
As long as it's not that, it's not because you're too eloquent, so I thought it's final.
No, not at all. In fact, I'm just trying to.
Now, when you say that different cultures view... No, finish your question, go ahead.
Sure. So I'm just. No, but you're right. Absolutely, but not final. Not final.
Not final,
Not
I'm
final.
about to hear.
So
You're too intelligent to make something as short that we just talked for a while final. You're too intelligent.
I'm not intelligent.
Well, you wouldn't be happy if I told you dumb, so what would you like? Let's just say thank you and move on.
Okay.
Alright? Would you like me to say you're dumb? No,
That
you
makes
lose
me
faith.
actually more intellectually intrigued.
Let's put it this way. You're Chinese and you don't want to lose face, so let me just say you're smart, make you snappy. Then I'll get another free dinner out of you, which I haven't gotten yet. Go ahead.
Fair enough. Deal. No, so humbly, just thinking whether you would accept, not accept. So just like a box, for example, so Buddhism would say this is, excuse me, I'm just gonna use my body, okay, my body. The way Christian would talk about my body versus Buddhist would talk about my body, the way the death process works. You mentioned, we lose our water, air, earth, we lose our fire, we lose our wind, and then it goes through this sort of directional process in a flow.
It's a physiological...
That description may explain it very well, yet parallel, can we just open out a compartment for that? Without desecrating it? That the Christians may have somehow explained, I don't know what it is. I'm so lack of information that I can only sort of describe, abstractly.
So how can you say Christians then if you don't know anything about it?
Another religion.
But you don't know anything about another religion and what their view of the body is.
Can we have a hypothetical religion? Just to create this...
No, because then you're just trying to win.
No, I'm trying
You
to
can't
see
use
what it
any
comes out of.
hypotheticals on religion because you don't know about it.
Okay.
So you can't use an example, you have to use an abstract example.
Abstract example.
Yeah, you have to.
Sure.
Because you have no studies
It
or
is,
basis for that.
it is abstract.
So you can't use Christianity.
Okay. I love
Now
that.
you can use...
I love your intellectual rigor.
No, you can use runs.
Run
philosophy. Go ahead, run.
I'm grateful.
We call it run region.
I'm grateful you got me there. So run region.
Your first priestess.
Yeah. And oh my anthropological angst. Now back to where the compartment.
You know what? One of my favorite subjects is anthropology. One of my favorite, but they lie a lot. They lie quite a lot.
Interesting. Some of them do, yeah. Anthropometric.
Not some, a lot of them lie, especially when you dig up new things to cover the old. They lie a lot.
It's very imperfect. Very imperfect.
It's not a matter of just imperfection. It's the arrogance. It's the arrogance that only it can be discovered with something tangibly in your hand, which I don't like. I believe a lot has been discovered by tangibility, but I don't believe that's the only way. Because why? Then you negate any other possible perception that humans can have.
I actually feel really bad because I'm wasting time, precious time, talking about anthropology. I'm just gonna go back to your point.
No, you asked me a question.
I know, I just got the point. So
You said something about square, circle.
Square.
And you were trying to pretend you're so good in Christian philosophy, and then you were trying to. That's why you can't use it. You have to use something you're sure
You're
of.
trying to say like, why does Buddhism explain death in one way and another religion explains it in a different way?
that's simply put, but I think Rinpoche answered that, you know.
You calling her a dumb blonde?
No.
That's very simply put.
You do know
So
me
what
very
is
well.
the-
Oh, no. Run. You could never ask me something that's not been asked. I've been at this for 20 years.
Of course. No, but race actually
But what
just
I'm-
said
what-
something exactly what I want to say.
But what's your point?
The point is exactly what Ray said, you know.
Oh, like,
Is that
I think
okay?
he's trying to say that, okay,
Yeah.
Buddhism has existed for a long time, and there's this system that you believe that when you die, certain things happen, and some other religions existed for a long time too, and they believe that when you die, maybe you
Some
go to
reli-
heaven or hell.
Okay,
Exactly.
some religions tell you if you speak against their religion, they kill you. What would you like me to do with that?
Unfortunately, you can't judge that, can you?
I can judge that. I will not kill them if they offend my religion. I can judge it because religion teaches compassion, not murder. So some religion teach me that if you don't accept my religion, I bomb you.
Yeah.
What would you say about that? Why would you use that as an example?
You know, it's hard to say this because they come from such different ethology, right?
It's not a matter of ethology. It's a matter of how this religion has served mankind.
Okay.
How it has resulted in mankind, and for how long it has benefited or resulted in. What's the resultant practice of the religion?
Because Buddhism is universal, but at the same time, it feels as if that...
The greatest scientist in the world, Albert Einstein, said, the most logical religion is Buddhism. The religion of the future is Buddhism. Man will have to evolve towards that because Buddhism is all accepting, is all encompassing, non-violent, and at the same time realistic.
Then does it encompass Christianity as well?
It encompasses everyone, including Christians, unless you're a fanatical Christian that says your statues need to be burned, your temples need to be blown up and destroyed, and we are the only way.
How does Buddhists explain Christianity then?
How does Buddhists?
Explain of the existence of Christianity.
What do you mean explain? What is there to explain?
How
How does Buddhism explain Chinese culture? I mean, how does Buddhism explain French cuisine? I mean, why does that have to
the different
explain?
constructs though, right? I mean,
Do they accept you?
how do they even in some way understand Christianity in its own terms? The other religion, the other existing, system of thoughts. Because you mentioned it encompasses them, that that as long
I
as
didn't say it encompasses Christianity.
Right.
I said it encompasses universal thought, which is beyond Christianity. I told you earlier also, what the Buddha taught is not saying that he has the copyright. He's telling you what he has perceived in his enlightenment as existent. As I told you, atoms existed, Buddha identified it. It doesn't mean he created it.
I'm just fighting myself right now. Should
No,
I
you
just
don't-
go ahead and do Buddhism, or
No,
just
no.
take a
You don't do Buddhism.
Right.
You don't do religion. You don't do anything. This is what you do. You attend more of my classes, my teachings. you read more, you write down questions, you take your sweet time, and you add this to your plethora, your favorite word of knowledge. And you can even 10 years later, if you say to me, Rinpoche, I love you, I'll support you, I'll help you, we'll be friends to the end of our days. May I take Buddhism as a way of life? I say, no problem.
That's a materialistic way of life, self-indulgent way of life.
You
It's not
see,
right.
let's put it this way. There's one truth, no matter what religion or no religion. If you live for yourself, you don't live. If you live for others, it's worth living. That's one truth. Because everywhere we go, any country and culture, religion, no religion, we respect people who serve others. Is that not true?
It's true.
Correct. Even the most violent ones in the middle of the Middle East that blow up people, when they see people, one of them helping the poor or whatever, they feel touched. Even the most, like Osama.
But just to clarify, we don't live for respect and purpose and self-approval of others. Right?
No,
Right.
you're mixing it all up and you're twisting it around.
I-
When I say respect,
Right.
it doesn't mean you live for it. It means that when it registers, even with such a violent person, it means that quality is good. You're not doing it for Osama's respect. You're doing it that even such a murderous person can feel that. You get what I'm saying?
Okay.
That feeling is the truth.
That emote.
That feeling is the truth. That's what I mean.
Got it.
It's of course not for respect.
Yeah, that would be calm and respectful.
Oh. Wait, hold. He was like, like what's going on? Typhoon in the building.
I have a
My name is Tsem Typhoon Rinpoche. I forgot to tell you. TTR. You have been torturing people for years, and I am your purification.
Thank you.
Yes, dear. I like your nails.
Thank you.
No, not many people daring to put blue. It's very nice.
Great.
I wouldn't do it, but it's nice. You do not look like Alvaro. Go ahead.
I hear people talking about like the living Buddha. Is like the Buddha really reincarnated into somebody, a human being?
Oh, you are Malaysian. Okay, now, when someone really lives their life for others and has spontaneous compassion and generosity, and they really work for others, and they teach, and they're tireless in their quest to benefit others, it is like the Buddha themselves. So they liken that to them, and they give him a title, or they give him an honorary kind of respect by saying he's like a living Buddha, whole full. It doesn't mean that they're the living Buddha.
Oh.
It's just a title.
Oh.
Okay?